It's well and truly winter here in London, and that can mean only one thing. Yes, I am spending 2, 3 or even 4 hours on the indoor trainer, stuck on my turbo continuously, pretty much for all of my riding. So it seemed incredibly prudent to go over the 5 tips that I think will help you stay comfortable on the turbo and make those long indoor rides just that little bit easier. So let's jump into my first tip. And this is gonna seem really obvious to lots of people who use the indoor trainer regularly, but if you aren't cycling with a fan or you don't have a very high powered fan, please do yourself a favor and get even just a simple fan, 1 or 2 of them in front of you or below you while you're riding. It is the single most important change that you can make from this list. One of, if not the biggest difficulties with static cycling is just heat generation. When we're outside, we have the air passing over our bodies and that removes a massive amount of the heat that we're generating. And you'd be surprised about the amount of energy and therefore heat that you're producing even when you're cycling slowly. And if you don't have a fan inside, that heat is just going to keep building up. You're not getting rid of it enough and you're just going to feel dreadful. So get yourself a cheap fan or invest in a more high-powered fan that can give you a more realistic kind of wind speed compared to what you would have outside. Now we've got the obvious one out the way, let's dive into tip number 2, and that's going to be around nutrition. And I must admit, ensuring proper nutrition is important whether you're riding outside or inside. However, riding inside can be a really good place to practice nutrition and make sure that it's your top focus and you're not slacking on it. When we're outside, it's easy not to want to bring 2, 3, 4 bottles with us and some snacks if you're on a longer ride, especially if you're going over kind of 2 or 3 hours. However, indoor you can set all of that up in advance and simply put it on the table next to you or have a lovely partner hand it to you. And as with outdoor, it's just going to make your life so much easier, so much more pleasant. You're going to have more energy to cycle for longer and have a significantly better time. And the other thing I would say, especially when it comes to bottles, is consider putting ice cubes in your bottles or refrigerating them before you consume them. So eat, drink more and try and make your beverages as cold as possible, because that will help lower that core body temperature. Another really key thing to focus on to be more comfortable on the turbo is to pay attention to our pacing. In this, I'm going to be talking more about power. However, if you don't have a power meter, lots of the same principles do apply to heart rate. For a number of reasons, people's power on indoor trainers can often be lower than outdoors. And I guess that's for mainly kind of those temperature things we've talked about, the motivation compared to cycling outside somewhere nice, and the lack of being able to have those micro rests when you're, say, going around a sharp corner while outside or on a slight descent. Because of these, I think it's really important to pay attention to your pacing. You might not want to start your first interval session on the turbo or your first long zone 2 ride on the turbo at exactly the same intensity as you would in the outdoor version. Because you're going to be pedaling continuously, I would suggest knocking it down by 10 or 15%, just so that you know that you can complete those comfortably, because compliance is the most important thing to do with these sessions. And if you're really struggling, don't be afraid to knock down the watts by 5 or 10, just so you can keep those pedals moving, because you can always put it back up later. My penultimate tip is to experiment with the entertainment you use on the turbo. There are so many different forms of entertainment that you can use because, well, you're inside, so you can watch YouTube, you can watch Netflix, you could listen to something. The list goes on and on and on, but I think those are the main 3 that I have experimented with. And I think they suit different types of sessions. Personally, if I've got something hard, like a VO2 max session, the music is going on full blast. I just don't have the mental ability to focus on something like a TV show. However, if it's a long zone 2 ride, then something on Netflix, normally 1 or 2 films for me, back to back, is a really nice way of passing the time. But that's just what works for me. I'd highly suggest experimenting. Maybe you find having something to watch takes your mind off of those VO2 intervals, or maybe you absolutely love music and you can just tune out and listen to and hum along to your favourite tunes for hours upon end. I think it's one of the unique benefits compared to outdoor riding, and so I would really use it to its fullest advantage. And our final tip is to do with on the bike comfort, and I've got two recommendations here. First off, choose a good quality pair of bib shorts. Now, typically when you're outside you can move around a little bit more, and a lower quality pair of bib shorts isn't as noticeable. However, when you're on the turbo, you're going to be pretty much fixed in a single position the whole time. It doesn't necessarily allow you to be moving around that much, and so you really will notice if you have a poorer quality pair of bib shorts. I would recommend a more premium brand, and I know it's going to be more expensive and I know they aren't that much better, but for me it can be one of the things that stops me from turboing for a really long time if I'm using one of my lower quality pairs of bibs and I get discomfort in the saddle region. And to further help with that comfort on the bike, you could also look at investing in some chamois cream. Not everyone finds this beneficial or necessary. However, having experimented with a few different brands, I've found them all to be pretty beneficial. Again, more so on the turbo than I do outside, simply because, like I said, you are fixed in that one position and it can become quite uncomfortable quite quickly if anything is rubbing down there. But those are my top 5 tips for surviving long indoor cycling sessions. I'd love to hear yours. Do you disagree with any of mine? What else would you add? Have you got a 6th, a 7th or an 8th tip? I'd love to hear them, so stick those down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more similar content. That's it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.